Good evening, Kabibal, and welcome to our Learn at Home Facebook Live session. Our discussion for tonight is titled, It's the Right Choice, Activities for Independent Writing. Before we begin, please take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.bibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH, our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kavibal. And now, to proceed with our session, let me first introduce to you our distinguished speaker for tonight, Miss Sarah Jane Sanclaria Cruz.
Okay, so thank you so much, Miss Dane, for that introduction. So before we start, let me just share my screen. Okay, so just like what Miss Dane said a while ago. My name is Mrs. Sarah Jane and Claria Cruz, and I would like to say thank you first to Vibal Publishing for giving me another opportunity to share what I know to my fellow educators. But before I start with my discussion, I let me greet everyone first a pleasant evening, and I hope everyone is okay in their homes, safe and healthy. I know medyo kakaiba tong past few weeks, but alam kong makakabalik rin tayo sa ating normal programming or yung iba nga nakabalik na. And us being teachers, we are flexible, so kayang-kaya natin to. Anyway, our webinar for today is entitled It's the Right Choice, Activities for Independent Writing. So what to expect in tonight's webinar? So here are some guide questions that would guide us in discussing our topic for tonight. Now, at the end of the webinar, the attendees will be able to know the answer to the following questions. So first, here is what is independent writing? So I will be giving you definitions of independent writing as perceived by notable people in this field, how it can help our learners, and what is its main purpose. Number two question is, what are the different independent writing pedagogies? So I will be discussing with you three main components of independent writing, and I would be giving you concrete sample activities. Well, in short, what I would be sharing with you for tonight will be all based on my personal experiences. And that being said, okay, so let's start. Now, the first question that you might ask, of course, what is independent writing? So, independent writing, according to Harris et al. 2003, is a time wherein children write by themselves. Kaya nga tinawag siyang independent writing. Now, in this independent writing situations, teachers construct conditions for children to write, explore, and respond to text independently. So, there are may mga phrases lang ditong naka-highlight in different colors because I would like you to take note of these phrases. So, it says here, the students write by themselves. Okay, so they have the freedom to choose their topics, but in a certain area of study. So they have the freedom to choose, but still, teachers create conditions. So in a way, independent siya, pero meron pa ring control si teacher. So there are certain conditions. Now, in other words, independent writing is not just free choice writing, but what the student does with their works is a result of the explicit instruction and scaffolds offered by the teacher. So si teacher pa rin yung facilitator of learning. Thus, the teacher here as, of course, the facilitator of learning plays a vital role in creatively designing the writing opportunities. Now, in other webinars or seminars that you have been to, perhaps you have heard the term independent writing, or sometimes they call it writing workshop. Now, this technique, this writing workshop or independent writing, is used in teaching spelling, actually, and vocabulary for emergent language learners. But the main purpose of independent writing is to create proficient writers who write for a variety of purposes and audiences. Okay, so through independent writing, children can develop their skills in their own time and be driven by their own writing interests because students here write individually on self selected topics within an area of study. So, just like what I've also said a while ago. Now, tayong teachers, if we are going to conduct independent writing, we need to follow these independent writing requirements. So, as educators, we need to provide space, materials, and writing stimuli to our students. Now, if this is done face to face, other teachers allow their students to go in their safe corner or go to a corner in the classroom, choose a quiet place, and then put on their thinking hats, and then for the students to be able to focus and write their put their ideas into writing. Now in here, children are also given the opportunity to create their own text from beginning to end, drawing upon skills and knowledge gained from the teacher in previous instructions, previous lessons, or from the students schema or experiences. So we can do this by connecting and tapping the students' prior knowledge or schema nga to the topic. And lastly, another requirement is educators should provide support or scaffolding as needed or as need arise. Because children, hence the term independent writing, children here are almost entirely independent. So this is to give them the sense of accountability, freedom to choose and explore their ideas. But of course, how can we concretely do this? How do we implement independent writing? And the question here is, what are the different independent writing pedagogies? Okay, so one thing that I would also like you to take note of is independent writing is composed of three main components. First is mini lesson, followed by work time, and then share time. Okay, so mini lesson only runs for 15 minutes. So kaya nga siya mini. So it's not really a whole class discussion. So it's only like for tapping our students' schema and connecting them to the topic at hand, connecting their emotions, their ideas, their experiences. And then after doing the mini lesson, you go now to the work time. Now, the work time is the very gist of the independent writing process wherein the students will now actually write their pieces. So, kaya to mas mahabang time. So, for me, sometimes I do it in 30 to 40 minutes. It depends on the depth of the topic that you're going to give to your students. And then lastly is the share time. Um, Medyo guilty ako dito minsan because naghahabol tayo ng lessons. Papasa na lang, wala nang share time. So in here in independent writing, share time is very important. So later on, I will be telling you why, and I'll be giving you some sample activities that we did for the share time. Now, usually I use 3 to 5 minutes to give feedback when the students when we do share time. So 3 to 5 minutes per student. Okay? So medyo okay to sa akin kasi in our class, 15 lang naman yung handle kong students. So very manageable siya. So here's one example that I can share with you. In my class, the context of this is I designed an opportunity for my students to have an independent writing activity. So for our mini lesson, what we did is I set the mood and tried to connect student schema to the lesson or area of study using a set of photographs. So ito yung specific na mga larawan or photographs na ginamit ko sa aking mini lesson. Now, you can also do this through making the students read the story, listen to a song, or watch a video. So the point here is for the students to be able to connect to the topic that you would like them to dwell in. So after doing so, we briefly talked about what they have seen from the pictures and what they have felt while looking at the photos. So from here, I gave the writing prompt, which is, as a student who would like to make a
Ma'am
difference, what
Sarah,
can you do?
Ma'am
Yes, po.
Sarah, excuse me po, yung guide notes po, we can see po from the screen.
Oh, sorry. How
Thank you
can I?
po.
Okay. So from here, um, okay, I gave the writing prompt as a student who would like to make a difference. What can you do to solve this problem? So in here, um, so after this one, after giving the writing prompt, I asked my students to go to different groups to have a roundtable discussion. So I asked my student to choose from the pictures a while ago because we talked about different social issues. So some chose environmental issues, some chose issues about terrorism. So when they chose, each of the students go to different groups who chose the same topics. So in these groups, they did a roundtable discussion wherein the students brainstormed and researched on possible solutions to the problem. Okay, so one thing that's good when it comes to online classes is they have ready access to the internet. So if you would be asking the students to research on a topic, then it would be very easy for them to access the internet. So in here, the students brainstormed. So what they did is peer mentoring. So they talked about the topic that they chose, they shared their ideas, and I was actually in their different breakaway meetings, and it's really fun to listen to my students make take a step forward, share their ideas to their classmates, and then naririnig ko sila, oh, I've read from this website that it's like this, like that. And then the other one would be saying, oh, really? Because I've read in this website also that things like that. So they share the ideas to each other. And in here, medyo hands off ako. So medyo chill lang ako dito kasi I'm not doing that much of discussion. They are doing the discussion themselves. So for from this point, I'm just the facilitator of learning. So I'm not really that one who's commanding everybody. Because dito nga, it's independent writing. Now, I also set, just like what we have said a while ago, you set the conditions. So after the roundtable discussions per breakaway sessions or meetings, I call them back to the mainstream and to give them final instructions. So I set my expectations in here through giving my students some guide questions if needed, and I showed them my writing rubrics. Okay, so in here, sometimes when we do this, medyo nalilimit yung students natin. So what I usually tell to my students is, you can go further than the guide questions that I gave you because in a way, it's only a guide, my expectations, but you can go further. You can also go further the writing rubrics that I have set. So I always tell them, surprise me. Okay, you can go higher than the 10 points here by giving me your best answers. Okay, so in here, so I've given them the final instructions, the set of guide questions, the writing rubrics, and nakikita na kung napansin niyo, this is the part wherein the teacher give the conditions to the students. Okay? But when they chose their topic a while ago, that's the time naman na I gave them also the freedom to choose what they are going to write. Okay, so we have like a check mark already in the two requirements of independent writing. Now, dito naman tayo sa working time. After the mini lesson, now the students will be going to their different corners, different places, or kung kunwari, online tayo, they will be doing their pieces or writing itself asynchronously. Okay, so they can do this working time asynchronously. Now, ito yung pinakamahaba na time in our independent writing process because this is the exact time that they actually write their pieces, their narratives, their stories, or whatever man yung pinapagawa nating writing activity. Okay? So it's good to take note that we assess, we know the level of our learners when it comes to writing, because the time allotted for them should be um, appropriate enough for their abilities. Kasi yung mas shorter na time, medyo mas stress sila niyan eh. So, we know naman our students. So, as teachers, we should know the appropriate time to give them for the working time or for writing their activity. Okay? So, after the working time, ito naman yung share time. So, they share their um, answers, their manuscripts to the class. And yes, just like what I've said a while ago, medyo guilty rin ako dito kasi most of the time, kapag naghahabol ng class, mahirap yung we still give them. Hindi naman mahirap, pero hindi natin masyadong nabibigyan ng opportunity yung students to share their works because ang nangyayari is, sige wala ng time, pasa nyo na lang yan and then I'll just check it. Especially right now, kakatapos lang nung bagyong Ulysses, bagyong Typhoon Rolly, and then medyo madami yung class suspensions na nangyari and alam ko naghahabol tayo because for me ako rin, naghahabol tayo ng lessons. So this sharing time medyo baka hindi siya kayanin. But of course, if we would like to give quality education, as much as possible, let's give them opportunities to share what they have written. So in my class, every time that I ask my students to share their works, their manuscript, to read their manuscript in front of the class, nakikita ko yun sa faces nila yung joy. Okay, joy of writing. So this one motivates them. This one makes them enjoy writing more. So minsan kasi we just ask them to pass. So when we just ask them to pass, parang hindi man lang nila na feel yung sense of accomplishment kasi hindi nila na-share sa ka-classmates nila. At the same time, this is a good opportunity for the students to give follow-up questions. So for example, kapag nag-check tayo, di ba, sa writing kasi, it's something like art. So, different perspective. So, mas maganda tong art piece na to for me kasi ito yung perspective ko, yung point of view ko. So, just like in writing, the student might have their own point of view. So, ito pala yung ibig niya sabihin. Pero, since binasa mo lang siya, hindi mo pinashare sa bata, walang chance yung student to defend that point. So in here, when I ask my students to do sharing of their works, after sharing, I give constructive feedback. So aside from constructive feedback, that okay, this part is good. I like this part wherein you have included this situation or something like that. So you give constructive feedback. So aside from constructive feedback, you can also give probing questions. So medyo hindi ko naintindihan yung part na to. Can you elaborate what it means? Okay, so there's an opportunity for the student to defend his or her work. And from there, you would see, okay, yung pala yung point of view niya. So medyo mas makakakuha na yung student ng higher grade. And by that, with that, the student, it's like a two-way conversation of the manuscript to the teacher to the student, and then after the sharing time, you can still give them opportunity to revise based on what you have talked about. Now in here, we see to it that learners are given the opportunity to share their works para fair, para they can feel the accomplishment of writing their manuscript or their pieces. So give them on the spot constructive feedback for them to be able to um, revise their work if necessary or for them to be able to edit it. So we give them opportunities to chances to make their pieces better um, pieces. Okay, so if you don't have time to design something like this, and medyo kulang nga tayo sa opportunities dahil nagmamadali tayo sa ating lessons and medyo nahihirapan tayo, it's very good that Vibal is offering learn at home kits. So in here, they have different formats. So meron tayong teaching guide, activity sheets, and supplement. Now, I will be showing you one example of a writing workshop or writing activity that they have here. So this one is entitled Exposing the Unknown. So in here, when reading the newspaper and magazine articles, textbooks, encyclopedias, and manuals, y- you will notice that writings have an expository, also known as explanatory tone. So in here, meron siyang introduction. And this introduction is actually setting the mood or getting the students ready kung ano yung pag-uusapan nila, kung ano yung susulat nila. So from here, kung ako yung student, I would know already, okay, so we're going to talk about expository text or expository writings, explanatory writings. So this introduction actually helps the student connect to what the activity is going to be. So this can be tagged already as your mini lesson. So this first part. Plus, okay, if a while ago, what I've shown you is a set of, I connected my student schema to the writing activity through different photographs. In here naman, our Learn at Home kit put a reading selection. So the reading selection is entitled I Want to Be an Ethnomologist. Okay, so in here, the student um, would be able to connect to the activity because there's an example activity here. There's an example text and it gives them the idea. Okay, so we're going to talk about expository writing and something that has something to do with what I would like to do in the future. So these two parts are your mini lesson. Okay, so it's a good thing that this Learn at Home kit is following, actually aligned to the principles of independent writing. And the next part of your mini lesson, this is still part of the mini lesson. The Learn at Home kit is also giving conditions. So as you can see here, the bullets here gives the conditions for the students to follow. So ito yung the teacher set the conditions in for writing. Okay? But I would like you to take a note of this one. So choose a topic that you would enjoy writing and make sure that it is also interesting and informative for the readers. So in here, at the teacher have set the conditions, but still the students have that opportunity to choose their own topic. Pero still, nandun pa rin sila sa area of the study or area of study. So, yun yung mga requirements ng independent writing. And in our Learn at Home kit, naka-check mark na siya. So, very aligned siya sa principles ng independent writing. So, this one, with the reading text and the introduction, you can use this one as your mini lesson. And then after the mini lesson, the next key component is the working time or the writing itself. So in here, our Learn at Home kit gave an instruction wherein it says, what career do you plan on pursuing in the future? Use the space provided to write a short expository essay about it. You may refer to Delia's essay and the tips mentioned for guidance. So in here, ito na yung time that they independently write their pieces, write their expository text, their own text. So, ito yung 30 to 40 minutes na gagawin nila yung writing itself. So, after doing this, you can, if you're doing this on a face-to-face instruction, you can go around and then check if they are doing okay. But of course, in an online class, you can only give this to them asynchronously. So dito talagang independent writing sila because if you give it to the students asynchronously, they would be the one to independently write it. Now for me, since I am a junior high school teacher, it's easier for me to have an independent writing activity with my students because they are more matured, they are more well versed or exposed to this kind of activities because they are older. But for those who are teaching the lower grades, you can also, as part of the mini lesson, you can also give graphic organizers to help your students. So you can give like a fishbone graphic organizer, like an outline template for your students. So you can give them graphic organizers for them to be able to be guided and for them to be able to um, fix their ideas or organize their ideas properly. And then after that, they can go now to writing their manuscripts or pieces independently. Okay, so after writing the working time, then you go to the share time. Yan. So during the share time, just like what I've said a while ago, the students would be sharing their works, and the teacher will be giving constructive feedback to them. So in a way, when they share, parang they are having ideas. Okay, when I revise this, I'll fix it like this, like that. And at the same time, yun nga, yung the students would be able to have that sense of accomplishment na bragging right. Okay, so I was able to share this to my classmates and we were able to brainstorm. So this is the fruit of writing na dapat as teachers, yung time constraint, medyo dapat hindi natin siya um, dapat binibigyan natin sila ng opportunity. So yung time constraint medyo dapat hindi siya excuse sa atin. Kasi when the students write, actually the fruit of this is they need to share it to other people. Kasi yung ideas, di ba, it needs to be shared. So they share it through reading it in front of people, or teachers can also publish it. That's why in other schools, they publish students' works in different newsletters in different newspapers, so school newspaper. So it's a bragging right for them and it encourages them to create more masterpieces. Okay, so this is the good thing about the Learn at Home kits of Vibal Publishing. It clearly shows that it has the same pattern of what independent writing or the same process of independent writing, and it can clearly help our students even if they are at the comforts of their home. So for example, like, yeah, they are at home, they don't have the teacher, they can still do independent writing because they would be guided by the different parts of this writing workshop activity in our Learn at Home kit. Okay, so just like what I've said a while ago, the introduction, the reading selection, and the conditions um, talks about the mini lesson, or you can use it for the mini lesson. And then the try this part, that's the writing or working time. And then the sharing, since they are doing it at home and there's no teacher, they can take a video of themselves sharing and then pass it to the teacher, or they can just simply share it with their parents or their guardians, and their parents and guardians would be the one to give feedback. Okay, so you can give the parents or the guardians some guidelines on how to giving feedback, and it becomes like a family um, activity wherein the students, the parents also can learn a lot from their students na from their child na okay, so magaling pala siyang magsulat, magaling pala siyang gumawa ng story, and it would also motivate the student, the parent na okay, next time let's do this activity again. So this is a very good activity from Vibal's Learn at Home kit. And they also have other versions of this one. It comes in different. The Learn at Home kits comes in different formats. So they have the academic book, the test booklet, activity sheets, supplements, and the Teach at Home guide. So the Learn at Home kit is a free online starter kit, and it is good for 10 10 weeks of budgeted learning aligned to the curriculum. So it covers different subject areas. And I know that if you're a parent or a teacher, I know that it can help you in doing your activities if you have this Learn at Home kit from Vibal Publishing. Okay, so I hope I was able to give you the essence of independent writing and how to do this in your classroom.
Thank you very much, Miss Sarah. And there we have it. On behalf of Vibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for tonight for this insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us, ma'am. And to all our Kavibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning sessions. Don't forget to register to get your certificate of participation. We encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Facebook and YouTube channel. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang gabi sa ating lahat.